This week, would decriminalizing illegal drug possession reduce overdose fatalities? Also, how should Canada assert itself when dealing with China? I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst.
I think you should be trying to develop the best relationships possible with every foreign nation.
It becomes a question of, is human rights more important than trades, or is trades more important than human rights? So I think Canada has to focus on what is more important to us.
It's more important than the monetary value of doing trade with them, is to have a strong stance on how we feel humans should be treated in the world.
Somebody has to lead the way and be one of the people that says human rights are important. Some of these, otherwise stuff kind of goes away and nobody hears about it.
In recent times, the relationship between Canada and China has been anything but rosy. The arrest of a Huawei executive in this country under a U.S. extradition order has resulted in what some feel is a reprisal by China after two Canadians were detained in that country under suspicion of undermining national security. China has also blocked all sales of canola to that country, who once accepted 40% of imports. China has a population of 1.4 billion people. They're a big player. So, how should Canada navigate these precarious waters? Our question. How should the Canadian government assert itself when dealing with China?
I think we have to stand our ground. I think that we're being bullied right now. And I know there's a lot of economic things involved, but our farmers are suffering. They want to take a lot from Canada, but they don't. They want it on their terms. And I think they have to stand up, and we have to stop being a pushover.
It should think about the consequences its influence on China would have on its citizens, and it should focus on how it impacts our trade, our business with China, and also how we deal with China as a whole. So I understand that there's some injustice happening in China right now with some Muslims, and it's difficult for Canada to assert itself because we are trading partners with China, but it becomes a question of, is human rights more important than trades, or is trades more important than human rights? So I think Canada has to focus on what is more important to us, whether that's trade or whether that's human rights, and I think it's human rights.
I was just looking at that this morning on the line, and I think that we need to stand our ground with China and maintain human rights as we've all believed for many years. You know, that's part of the Canadian philosophy, and I think we really have to stand our ground.
It's tough because of the great difference in sizes of the economy, but have to keep reminding them that we subscribe to the rule of law, and to have our people virtually held hostage there is not acceptable. How you make it sting, I don't know.
I don't know if you can. You're poking a big bear. There's, I hope that Canada takes a stand and will be the one who, one of many, hopefully, that take a stand on human rights and take certain positions that may not be popular and economically hurts to fight with China. But somebody has to lead the way and be one of the people that says human rights are important. Some of these, otherwise stuff kind of goes away and nobody hears about it.
Detaining Canadians in China, that's absurd. That shouldn't be a thing at all, right? And they should be immediate release. So regardless of what else is going on, that should never happen to our citizens, period.
We all need to admit that we don't know as much as we think we do about China. I think that's very fair. That's the first thing for me, because I really don't know. And I don't think it's fair for me to really have an opinion on something I don't know too much about. But in terms of, I think what we also need to realize is that the oil that is coming out of Alberta is going to make its way to the BC coast one way or another, whether it's a pipeline or on a train. And continued investment in that is going to hurt us in the long run.
I think the way we can save the planet is send as much clean natural gas to them so they're less dependent on coal-fired generation. This whole business of what we can do to avoid global warming, we're too small. It's ridiculous. So that's what we have to do. Send them as much natural gas as we can.
With that kind of issue, I think we just need to be maybe diplomatic. Just kind of make the right decision based on what's good for Canada. That's my, I don't really have much an opinion when it comes to something like that, but I think it's just Canada should look after, the people and what's good for us and stuff like that, if it's going to benefit us or not, kind of thing. What's good for the economy. So then maybe if it will bring jobs, then it's good, but if it's going to take away jobs, I think it's not that good, so.
I don't know. I feel rather strongly about us as a stance on human rights and us as being a leader for these things. And so I feel that it's more important than the monetary value of doing trade with them is to have a strong stance on how we feel humans should be treated in the world.
Well, I mean, I think you should be trying to develop the best relationships possible with every foreign nation. It's probably not the easiest thing to do. I don't have the solutions, but I mean, that's why we elect those people into office to do the job. But
Complicated.
it's very complicated, yes. So, I don't really know how they would go about it, but definitely would pursue a good relationship, yeah.
According to the organization Canada Without Poverty, roughly 5 million people, that's 1 in every 7 Canadians, live in poverty. 40% of First Nations children also live in poverty. Food bank usage in every province and territory, with the exception of Newfoundland and Labrador, has increased since 2008. We sent our cameras out to ask Canadians how we could bring these numbers down. Our question: what more could be done to reduce poverty in Canada?
I think a lot could be done to reduce poverty in Canada. I think definitely on the ground initiatives and speaking with local communities and local organizations that strive to reduce poverty. So definitely at a low scale level first, and then implementing government initiatives as well.
Oh, a lot. I think poverty is a major problem. It's a major cause of high healthcare costs, poor educational outcomes. We ought to be doing way more than we are. I think we need things like a universal affordable childcare program so that women can get out and get more education or get a job. I think we need a national housing strategy. I think we need job creation strategies around a Green New Deal. There's all kinds of things to be built to deal with climate change. All of those things could be part of an anti-poverty strategy that would work. And although it would cost a bunch of money at the front end, it would save money over a 10 or 15 year period.
Redistribution of wealth, higher taxation. That's really all that needs to be done.
I know what helped me when I was growing up is that my mom had access to daycare facilities. So I would like to see more daycares in all of Manitoba, more access to daycares, better costs for daycares, and that could help. Right now, I saw this morning on my Facebook feed that we are short 200 coats for Manitoba kids, and it's way too cold for that. So more people taking into account the fact that kids need something, more food, more coats, more donations.
Canada can focus on its Indigenous communities more. Many populations of our Indigenous people are suffering because they have lack of water, lack of food, lack of all resources that regular Canadians are entitled to or even have necessarily. And as someone who wasn't born in Canada but immigrated here and had access to those resources, I couldn't imagine my life without those resources. So it's not fair for all those people who are suffering out on the streets in minus 40 weather. So I think Canada can focus more on its Indigenous communities and just on regions of Canada that aren't getting as much resources as they need.
Spend some money at home. I know that Canada helps out a lot. Billions of dollars have gone to the education of the young girls in Africa, and we assist all over the world. But if we don't take care of your people at home first, then we have a problem. And poverty is growing. Even those that are employed are having problems having their dollars go far enough to help them out every month. So I think we have to spend a little bit more at home. I think we need to stop buying so much stuff and start helping each other a little bit more by supporting our food banks. But that's only an interim. But I think the government really has to look at taking care of Canadians first and ensuring that we have a roof over our head, we're warm, and a bite to eat.
I think there needs to be more jobs available, and I think people need to be more willing to work.
I hope there's programs. I'm not familiar enough with the programs that exist, but you hope that some of it can helping people better the situation.
Poverty's tough because I work downtown Edmonton. There's been an influx of homeless people, even though statistically they say there's fewer, but they're more visible. Social agencies aside, I think it's really up to the citizens to make sure that the government is aware that we want more programs and we want people looked after, and that's part of why they're elected. I mean, it's easier to say than to do, but I just think we have to keep our elected officials more honest on that point, instead of just becoming an election issue.
I think the biggest thing is transforming our own hearts and how we view each other. I think a big thing is recognizing that another person's suffering is not an isolated thing, but we're all connected. So I think caring about our community and how do we build our capacity for caring about our community on a neighborhood, like on a grassroots level, I think is a very important thing for empowering us as individuals. But then of course policies and all of these other supports, and we have some incredible social services that are already doing all of that, like a lot of work. But I think about what can I do myself as an individual. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Rotarian, and they've almost removed polio from the world. It's almost eradicated worldwide. And, servant leadership and giving to, I'm a big believer in giving to the homeless and poor and helping them out as much as possible. It breaks my heart that we have homeless people in Canada. We're a wealthy country, and we have tons and tons of space. So I'm from Grand Prairie. In our city, our club donated $1 million to the city to build a daytime home shelter, for the homeless people. So it's a start. Yeah. So if we all did that, it'd go a long ways.
I don't know if a basic income would be plausible or doable at all. I think just more. I think people having a little bit more empathy and wanting to help a little bit more would also help. Education is one thing as well. You see a lot of people panhandling and stuff, but maybe they just don't know what resources are available or where they need to go. So I think that might help as well.
We actually have a program that is just like whenever we have poor people in Brazil, we have a kind of place that they can go so they can get assistance from the government. So they kind of get a stipend of about a third of the minimum wage or something like that. So yeah, I think if Canada can do something like that.
Is that guaranteed?
Yeah, you just have to prove that you really need it and that your kids are in school and everything. So whenever you're able to prove that, they get this third of the minimum wage from the government.
So I think if we can address maybe the issue of mental health and addressing that, because I think that's a lot of where the root of the problem lies. So if you can address the root of the issue, I think we can make a difference in the long run.
I think we need to have more accessibility to training programs. Education is good for some people, but it's not for all people. Some people need to be trained in the trades, apprenticeship, that kind of stream.
Which of these former Canadian Prime Ministers was a Rhodes Scholar? Pierre Trudeau, John Turner, Brian Mulroney.
I'm going to go with John Turner, and I have no idea why.
Brian Mulroney.
Pierre Trudeau? I don't know.
I'll go with Trudeau.
I'm going to say Mulroney.
I think it's Brian Mulroney.
Pierre Trudeau, John Turner, Brian Mulroney.
John Trudeau.
The answer, John Turner. Former Canadian Prime Minister John Turner was made a Rhodes Scholar in 1949. The Rhodes Scholarships were established by English politician and businessman Cecil J. Rhodes in 1902 as a way to promote unity between the English-speaking countries and strengthen ties between Britain and North America. The scholarship allows international postgraduate students to study at the University of Oxford. Restricted to only men for 75 years, women were able to access the scholarship in 1977. Canada is currently able to nominate 11 scholars annually. During an election campaign, there are those who identify as party faithful, those who will stick with the party through thick and thin. There are also those who identify as undecided voters, who will go with a particular candidate no matter what position he or she may take. So we posed this question to Canadians. The party or the platform, what is more important to you?
It's the values of the party at the time, because parties go through changes and they make mistakes, and sometimes they're atoning for mistakes. So I think you got to look at the people that are running at the time for that party and make your decisions accordingly. I don't think it can just be blind party loyalty. And I think Albertans are much more likely to flip if they have a good reason to. And I think we've done that the past 5 years. You know, we've done things, electing NDP governments, which was never going to happen, and then happens. And then electing a number of Liberals at the last election, again, something outside the box. And so I think people don't give Albertans credit enough for being as progressive as we actually are. And you see it reflected every time you walk down the street.
I don't follow just the party. If they're doing a good job, I'd happily pay my taxes. I pay a lot of taxes, and I just don't think they do good work with it right now. So I was a Liberal up until the NEP program in 1981, and I formally resigned and said I will never vote Liberal again because you've destroyed our province. And here we go again. So, yeah, right now I think the Conservative is the party that has the answers. And nobody likes the belt tightening that they're doing right now, but it's got to come from somewhere.
Platform for sure. Not necessarily party. I mean, if the Conservatives talk to me more and I agree with them, I would vote Conservative. If it was Liberal, it'd be Liberal. If it was NDP, it'd be NDP. But it's whoever brings the best platform, I think, and addresses all the issues that are important to me. But not only to me, but I think that's where people lose perspective too, is that it's not all about you. There's other people in this country. Just because you need something or you want something doesn't mean it's good for the whole country. So I think people lose perspective a little bit that way.
The platform, for sure.
Why?
Because I don't care about parties. I actually think parties should go away. They don't make a lot of sense to me. We're supposed to be a representative democracy. We're supposed to elect a representative that votes for our opinions. Yeah. So parties destroy that.
To me, it's the platform. To me, the Indigenous people of Canada are more, we need more access to services. I know that the government thinks they give us enough, but I think we need more. And I think they're obliged to give us that. Historically, we gave up our land and our name in good faith, and I think they should be addressing those issues. So when we talk about politics on the whole, I'm more in tune to the platform, not to the person or to the party.
It's usually party, except under unusual circumstances. Like in this case, I would normally vote with the Liberal Party, but in this case, because I was so disgusted with the SNC-Lavalin affair, to be fair, I don't think he's the only one that's making those backroom deals. I think they all are. He just got caught at it. But yeah, maybe in the future I'll vote more on platform than along party lines.
Kind of both, because all the parties have some ideologies they will run with, and the people who is actually running the party and you know, they have some personal contribution or, you know, those virtues they come with to make it like some plan. So yeah, it's both are important.
It's definitely the platform. There are certain issues that I would definitely consider when choosing the person that I'm voting for. The party is important because I think to some extent certain parties, they do have certain values.
I think both in certain extents. I think the party is immensely important, but also where they like where they sit on different platforms and stuff, right? So someone may support the NDP as a party, but maybe more initiatives run by the Liberals or vice versa. So I think a combination of the two is important.
For me, it's definitely the platform. Canada needs to decide what to do and make Canada great. And so it's the platform. Every party can come up with a platform. The party that's going to come up with a platform that will bring us to where we need to is the one that I'm going to be voting for.
I would say the platform, because it shows what their main ideas are, and the party, it kind of isn't as important.
The platform, because you can always have a good party or you can have a bad party with good platforms. So it depends on every different occasion or every different voting time what the party is saying and what their platform is.
I think the party provides the platform. So to me, it's the party as the platform is developed. The individual has some impact on that, but not a huge amount.
The decriminalization of illegal drugs is not a new idea among nations. Portugal is a great example of that. Back in 2001, that country decriminalized the possession of illegal drugs, and since then has seen a dramatic drop not only in overdoses and drug-related crime, but also HIV infection. Canada's opioid epidemic continues to grow year after year. During the last federal election, one of the platform highlights from the Green Party was the decriminalization of all street drugs so people could get the help they need. But would it work in this country? Our question.
Would decriminalizing illegal drug possession help reduce overdose fatalities?
I don't know if it would help with overdoses, but it might take away some of the challenges that people who do have these drugs, where they might just end up in the justice system when really what they need is help from the social support systems.
My feeling is that that has to be tightly regulated. So, marijuana hasn't seemed to change the landscape all that much, as much as people thought. But certainly you're seeing some effect. But I think it's been reasonably well managed. There's impaired charges and versions of DUIs that the police are dealing with. But I think that's really a question for government. I think they have to make sure our kids are safe. And again, as a parent, that's really all I care about.
No. Why give them access and why make it easier? That seems strange to me, although I don't think that we do a great job with our court systems anyway. We put people in jail and then just, I don't think that helps. They do need help. They do need rehab. My sister went through rehab 4 times. It never did work for her, but unfortunately, But yeah, we need to work on that problem. Fentanyl, you hear about, that's such a dangerous thing. It's unbelievable that you can buy, a bunch of pills from China and have them shipped. That stuff goes through the mail. There's ways that we could probably control that a little better.
No, any kind of drug pushing for the people is bad and it's wrong, and the things that we need to focus on is the trauma. We can't just keep pushing more drugs because it's the children that are going to be failing in the future, and we need these children to survive, especially when we're old and we have nothing left but the children. And if these children are all, strung out and drugged up, it's going to be worse.
I don't think decriminalization is going to do much for the problem. Obviously, people get it when it's criminalized, so that's not going to help. But I think we need to invest more in the health system, in the mental health system, reducing poverty, creating hope for people.
I'd say so. From how it's helped in countries like Portugal, it's been like that for a while, and it's been proven that it's worked a lot better for them, so it might be worth a shot.
Yes, I believe it would. Yeah, having safe injection sites is super important to the epidemic.
But if you shift your strategies towards harm reduction, which decriminalization would be part of that overall strategy, I think that's been shown to be more productive than criminalizing people for something that's like a systemic issue.
This is totally not my research area, but I do know people doing research on it. I can imagine, though, a person going to a doctor and not having to worry about whether they're going to be thrown in jail to tell the doctor what their problems are. The doctor would be more able to help them. So in my belief, yes, I'd like to see more research studies done.
Not at all. I really don't think that would help at all. I think there are people out there, despicable people, that sell drugs cheap. So even if you decriminalize it, there's always going to be someone else who's going to produce more crap that's killing more people. And we see it every day. I work in the hospitals, so I see it every day, and they're able to get it. But I will tell you what needs to be looked at, and this has to be done, is people are going from walk-in clinic to walk-in clinic to walk-in clinic, and they're getting opioids here and opioids there, and they're able to fill that and sell that to buy other crap. We have to watch our pharmacies. Pharmacies have to say, oh, no, you can't have any more. What we have to do is make sure that we're not legally assisting the use of drugs, but decriminalizing, I don't think that would change a thing, not a thing.
Only if they have programs to help with these people. Providing more drugs doesn't help unless there's programs to help with people become addicted, and addiction is the issue. You know, it's a very fine line between taking drugs and becoming addicted. So having more addiction available is not good unless they have education and programs to counteract that and have aid available in case people become addicted, right?
Not at all. No. I just think you're buying into the drug problem by allowing it to be legal.
Perhaps. I think that I've sort of come around to the idea that those safe injection sites would at least, I don't think they solve the crisis, but at least they would prevent some deaths. You can't help a dead person. So them and more policing, although they don't address the addiction problem, at least mitigate the damage that it does.
I don't know enough because I've never researched any of that, but it's kind of funny that, you know, the legalization of marijuana came kind of a non-event. You know, you've legalized it. Has it really changed it? I don't know. I don't see it that much. So somebody I would assume knows better than I do if that's the way to move in that direction. Because I'm pretty sure that penalizing people and whatnot is not a deterrent and doesn't fix the issue. So.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on the Cable Public Affairs channel. I'm Glenn McGinnis. If you have any comments or questions about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. It's your turn to speak up, and we're listening.